18 August 2022, episode 33 of This and That and What a Fuck. In this one, we will talk a bit about NATO, Russia, and the UK. First, there's this little bit of information. You can stop the video, pause it, if you want to read all of it. It was predicted in 1963 you will be able to carry the phone in pocket in future. And there's the girl with the phone prototype. And that was in 1963. Amazing. Baltic States beg for US military help. Russia's neighbors, including Poland, are pleading with the US to increase its military presence in their countries and speed up weapons deliveries, as they believe they will be next to come under attack. Now, I can say a lot about this, and I can swear a lot about this, but the rate at which that Balkan states is poking the bear. They are actually begging for Russia to whip them. I cannot understand. And the Americans, they're too glad to jump in, because that's what they can do, war. And then there's this from Dmitry Medvedev. We didn't come to US borders, they came to us. Russian President's recent remarks were a clear warning to US, NATO and Ukraine. Russia is ready for anything. Start peace negotiations or escalate the conflict at your peril. Yeah. Now, if we listen to what Medvedev says, pay attention, makes sense. I'm asking again, what would America do if Russia started setting up bases in Mexico or in Canada? And then there's this, which is actually disturbing. Anyone telling the truth about the thousands of women and children killed in Donbass over the past 8 years by Ukrainian forces is immediately persecuted in Germany. The mother of German journalist Alina Lipp, who covers events in Donbass, had to leave Germany for Russia under threats at home. She had to escape because the German authorities closed her bank account. One day she couldn't pay with a card or withdraw money. This is really disturbing. And just remember, Germany is one of those countries that make a big story about democracy and freedom of speech and freedoms and rights and all of that. But look what they are doing. And then this is just a little bit of information. Avars, Dargans, Kumyks, Lechkins, Laks, Tabasarans, Azerbaijanis, Russians, Chechens, Nogais, Aguls, Ratues, Chakurs, all nations of Dagestan, for our country, for our army, for the President of the Russian Federation. Yeah, and I have to go and check the facts, but I think somewhere I read that there's 117 ethnic groups in Russia. And then from Putin, we cannot passively observe your warmongering pushing to weaponize our borders. It appears NATO is hell-bent on starting World War III. The US-led NATO is looking for trouble. Russia will continue the special military operation in Ukraine. And this is the problem that I have. NATO and the West in general never listen when Putin speaks. Never. They don't listen. And then there's this, more from Putin. Moscow values its ties with countries in Latin America, Asia and Africa, and we are ready to offer most modern types of weapons, from small arms to armored vehicles and artillery, to combat aviation and unmanned aerial vehicles to our allies. And this must be very disturbing for those warmongers in Washington when they see things like this. And then there is this. You have to be friends with Russia. Iranian MP Zohar Elahian writes, while Iran is sending its satellites into space, Europeans are collecting firewood for winter. I have to laugh about that. Then we go to the UK. Recession looms over UK as economy shrinks for the first time since pandemic. UK economic shrank 0.1% between April and June, the Office for National Statistics said on Friday. the number largely driven by a decline in spending and by continuous anti-pestilence efforts, the body said. Despite an expected rebound in the nearest quarter, experts predict beyond it looks bleak. Well, they have got billions of pounds to pump into Ukraine. And then there is this. The UK promises to rebuild the armed forces of Ukraine and increase the scale of resistance. The Minister of Defence of the United Kingdom, together with the military from other NATO countries, began training 10,000 Ukrainian military personnel. And I wonder, in the back of their minds, if they don't ever for a moment just sit there and think, how does Russia perceive these actions? And then we've got this one, and this is really serious. London planning destruction of Russian bridge. Plans have been drawn up to strike the crossing which connects Russia and Crimea over the Kerch Strait, according to the lawmaker Alexei Koncharenko, who claimed to have disclosed the plans with the UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. Now listen, all I will say about this, the UK is really looking for trouble, and it is noteworthy on the channels that I follow and so, there are so many times where Russian officials would talk, or when they talk about the war in Ukraine, they specifically name the UK. I think that the UK is cruising for a bruising. And then we've got this. The British are queuing for bottles of clean water because the taps no longer come out due to the drought. The first general of Russia under the name Heat is transporting air defense. Well, but in any case, go and ask your government. They've got billions of pounds that they pumped into the Ukraine and still doing it. And then we're again with Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace promises that in a few weeks, thousands of fighters will return to the Ukraine who will have the best practices of the British Army. I really want to know what it is. The best practices of the British Army. Where did he show himself? In what battles and war has Britain recently won victories? I don't remember. The last thing I can remember about the British is when they saw their asses in the Falklands. And then we've got this. Western god of democracy, Zelensky, confirmed that they intend to shell the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Guys, I don't know when this is going to stop. But this crazy guy, he must be skinned and hanged on a tree to dry. And this is just a little bit of information. Not a single vessel carrying grain has so far reached African and South Asian countries where people are suffering from hunger. 10 ships have left, mainly carrying animal feed. One is headed for the UK, one for Ireland, while several are on their way to Turkey, Italy and China. None of them are bound for Yemen, Somalia and other countries. But we know by now. And then there's this. Ukraine is bankrupt, reliant on the West. Without the help of Washington and Brussels, Kiev can no longer fulfill its obligations to citizens, claims Russian MP Vyacheslav Volodin. Collected taxes from only 40% of the country's budget. That is as Kiev begs the West for $5 billion a month in assistance. You can read the rest if you want to, but the fact is this. The West is propping up that regime in Kiev, paying all the government overheads, pump millions of dollars into weapons and ammunition. For what? I still want to know. What the hell is in the Ukraine? Why are the West so desperate to prop this regime up? And then there's this little bit. Low on supply. US supplied rocket system HIMARS may soon become BIMARS, as Ukraine could run out of ammo for the highly touted system. And I've just heard this afternoon, I read a little tidbit, and I believe that there is now people in the EU that are saying that they will have to put Ukraine on an ammunition diet. How's that, the ammunition diet? Well, America has given 1/3 of their reserve ammunition to the Ukraine. The EU countries has basically depleted their stocks. Zelensky is effectively disarming EU specifically, and to a large extent America. Then there's this. They say there's a terrible drought in Europe, and Crimea lived for 8 years without water, which was blocked by the Zatsy Ukraine under the control of the West. Now, I don't know if you're aware of what happened there, but there's a canal from the Dnieper River going down to Crimea. That is their only source of fresh water. And in 2014, after that regime change in Kiev, all fresh water in that canal was blocked, and they built a soil dam across it. And that is what they did for 8 years. Crimea, their agricultural basically died. Their tourism basically died. And then there's just this little bit of a reminder. So you honestly think that Democrats would never manufacture votes or carry out political persecutions or manipulate the law to sideline an opponent? And then there's this cut from a tweet that Alexandria Cortez did. It's vital that governors maintain restrictions on businesses until after the November elections, because economic recovery will help Trump be re-elected. A few businesses closure or job losses is a small price to pay to be free from this presidency. How's that? And then this is very disturbing. Remember this: ridicule, abuse and hang without even having the right for it. You think the Russians would do this with Zelensky? Think again. That is not how the Russians are. They are not of that kind. They haven't lost their humanity. And then there's this image of Saddam and how they humiliated that man. The Americans are going to get their day, that's for sure. Then there's this. These 6 Satanists at the WEF must be culled. They bubble on about the fusion of tech and humanity. This is only something a satanic megalomaniac would dream of. They crave control. The 4th Industrial Revolution is bullshit dream of billionaires. Humanity doesn't need you, WEF. And I agree 100% with them. And we better wake up. This WEF has got ugly plans for humanity. And then we come to the Warafak. And this Warafak is actually very cynical. How they wreck countries under the guise of fighting terrorism. And then there's America carrying the terrorist under its arm towards that city, and then puts the terrorist in the city, and then it fights that terrorist, and then they ruin and wreck the city, and then it picks the terrorist up and walks away with it up to its next spot. And that is what they do. I am so sick and tired of this. Always war, war, war. Any case, please subscribe, like. The likes are very important. And share the thing. Have a great day.